schools, and when I would teach the history, I'd say, you need to read Beverly Jenkins because what I'm telling you is in print. It's in this book.
Yeah.
You can't find it many places.
Yeah.
I can tell you some research stuff to do, but if you want to read, and I would tell the women in our club, I would say, listen, all of us need to have some Beverly Jenkins books.
Yeah.
And I wrote you know this because I've told you this several times.
Yeah.
I was so happy that somebody was telling some history that you don't see in any books,
Right.
you know, unless you're in a special circumstance. I never heard of Buffalo Soldiers before I was grown. And our history, even though it's so hard, it's so great.
Yeah, it is.
Just the essence of the overcoming time after time after time is so great. So I really appreciate the fact that you all are willing, because I know it's difficult to write the historical, to get it out there and sold, but we need it so much.
Look at it. I neglect to say the professional part. I teach at Spelman College, and one of the things that I feel is edifying for the students to know is what the ancestors went through. So then you have that to hold on to when you are out in the world thinking about yourself and your life and what it is to go through. Say, well, if I'm having a difficult day at work or my job or whatever, then I can reflect upon Ida B. Wells and what she went through in her particular way. Because that's part of the thing with our youngsters these days, in terms of they don't know these things. And part of the taking on the heartache, etc., is so that then these students can have some idea of what those difficult times were like and what the things that did get people through. And love is one of them. And well, at least in terms of the whole traditional approach with when you're publishing a romance, that they want that romance to be front and center. So that it makes it a little bit easier to not necessarily, as you were saying, kind of gloss over the events, but to have them there as a backdrop, and even to use the events as a potential driving force to bring the characters together.
And segregation and all of that affect the personal relationships that you might have with your significant other or your family or whatever. We wouldn't be here. So there is a way to do it. And I like to tell my fans that I do the crying. There's a lot of stuff in the books that are just so awful. So I do the crying for you. And then I'll give you a taste of what it was like, but I'll bear the burden of the heartache. So.
You know, love is what gets you through.
Right.
Even now in hard times, that's where you turn to the people you love to get you through it. So I think given kind of an amount of consideration for what people were going through at the time and just kind of handling it carefully, and you know, like you said, you do the crying for us. When I'm doing research and stuff, I read a lot of stuff that y'all don't want to know nothing about because it's ugly. And there are times in our history it's pretty ugly. So you have to kind of know what to put in and what to leave out so that you get a feel for the way things really were without it overtaking the story and just depressing you.
Yeah.
A post on her. Come to find out how she met her husband is a historical romance in the making. At the time, she was helping these two guys. I think they were accused of something, and she was basically helping them out. And her husband, who was a lawyer, was the lawyer who basically took on the case, and they butted heads. So you can already see that. And then also part of Ida's history is she had to slip out in the middle of the night they were threatening her, and she had to go up to Chicago. Well, can you imagine if somebody's outside her house threatening her and her man comes along and secrets her out onto the train? It's all right there. Even with like Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman, after she did all the Civil War stuff, after all that, she went and married a man 22 years younger than her. I want to see that story if somebody's willing to write this. So there's a lot of wins in there. There's a lot of stuff that we did despite those hard times. You have a lot of women who were professionals going to college and things like that, and I'm sure that she can meet her match somewhere. So that's what the history I try to look for and highlight the stuff.